We've all seen them, but do we really know about them? Over 560,000 people in the US are homeless, which is roughly 5% of the population. Some 83,000 of these are considered chronically homeless. The numbers often spouted in the media and by government agencies are often dramatically lowered than reality due to the very narrow guidelines as to what exactly is considered being homeless. The real number is likely in the millions. The last time the UN attempted to come up with numbers for the homeless internationally, the number was 100 million, with an additional 1.6 billion people lacking adequate housing. Whilst the problem is truly a global one, the reasons for it vary from region to region, as do any possible solutions to help alleviate what is truly a global pandemic. The demographic of the homeless in the US varies. The segment of those over 50 years old who are on the streets is growing. As of 2014, 306,000 of America's homeless were over 50. Many of these people struggle with substance abuse issues and chronic health conditions that are hard to manage because of their situation. Homelessness in America is rising in many large cities, in part because of gentrification of neighborhoods and the increasing rents and costs that drive people out of their homes. There are as many different reasons for homelessness in the US as there are homeless, with each person having their own unique story to tell and why they came to this point in their lives. But there are trends. Some of the homeless are not unemployed, they just do not make a living wage or have other issues such as bad credit or felony convictions that can keep them from renting or otherwise finding housing. For the younger homeless, the cause often has to do with differences with their parents, often over sexual orientation. Some 40% of the teenage homeless population are also members of the LGBTQ community. Mental illness, developmental disorders, physical illness, emotional and sexual abuse are other commonly cited reasons for homelessness. Globally, it can be very difficult to track the number of homeless and the causes because of differences in the exact definition of what it means to be homeless, along with the problems in infrastructure and resources that prevent the collection of such data. The root cause of the majority of homelessness globally is often seen as being an economic issue. The poor just do not have the money and resources to afford housing, and when they do, it is often inadequate and substandard. Conflict and war also contributes greatly to the ranks of the homeless, with many people displaced by active fighting or with their homes and places of abode damaged or destroyed by fighting. In Yemen, there are 2 million IDPs, or internally displaced peoples. This is 2 million out of a population of 27.4 million. There are 6.3 million IDPs within Syria alone, with an added 5 million Syrian IDPs in neighboring countries. As bad as the homelessness situation is in the US, there are numerous groups and organizations fighting to find housing for those in need and taking on the root causes behind it. The National Law Center of Homelessness and Poverty is just one such organization working and advocating for the homeless and disenfranchised in America. The National Coalition for the Homeless is another, using their voice to push projects, speakers, and information around the country to bring a spotlight on the issue of homelessness. Some of the tools to help the homeless get back on their feet are helping with education, training, and giving the homeless the skills and experience needed to be able to support themselves again. Helping with food and housing is another important way to help people get going again. Some very innovative programs have worked, such as a program that tied in running with other programs and has been successful, bringing thousands of homeless back to self-sufficiency. An integral part of lifting the homeless out of their situation is by dealing with substance abuse issues, as 2/3 of the chronic homeless in the US suffer from this. On an international front, the Institute of Global Homelessness is leading the charge to address this phenomenon in a global manner. Their goal, working with their partners, is to end street homelessness in 150 cities around the world. The Institute feels that the issue is a global one. one that is growing, but one that can be addressed and solved on a global level, looking at things such as imbalance of supply and demand for housing, the cost of housing, and the impact of political and economic causes. The scale and numbers involved when looking at the global homelessness issue is truly monumental, but there are groups and organizations tackling this issue head-on. With the support of the international community, governments, and average citizens like you and I, it is a battle that can be won. After all, when one of us is homeless, we all are.